What camera company would you say is the most well-known? Nikon? Canon? Well, what about the most prestigious? The ones that, the camera company that others have always looked up to, took inspiration from, or even copied their design? Well, that would be Leica. This is Micro Adventures, and we've been tracing the story of photography for the past 130 years, starting with when roll film came out in the 1890s. So we've been trying out and using all these roll film based cameras. So today's episode is going to focus on the Leica camera. So I do not collect Leica cameras, but one was given to me on loan from a friend, and for me to review it. So hence this Leica IIIA from 1938. I had the Minolta 35. I had the Fed, the Russian copy of it, and some others. And those are nice cameras. The Minolta is quite nice, but I have to say nothing equals the original. It is so, it's hard to describe, but it is so smoothly and finely machined and well put together that you immediately, I can see why people end up desiring and wanting to collect these, because it is just such a nice instrument. The rangefinder on this is a separate window, so it's the one all the way on the left that you would use for focusing. And on this 3A model, one of the modifications, or as opposed to the earlier Leica II, is that it's a 1.5 magnification. So it's actually a magnified image for the rangefinder patch, making it much easier to line up the shot. Leica was founded in 1869, so it's one of the oldest camera manufacturers in Wetzlar, Germany, by Ernst Leitz, and focusing on optics, instruments, scopes. And in 1913, an employee of Leitz called Oscar Barnack started to create a prototype at home of what would become the Leica camera. He had a desire to create a portable camera that he would be able to take hiking, which was a passion of his, with him, and through many iterations basically perfected the first 35mm camera. And it's not quite the first 35mm, because there were other cameras like the Ansco Memo that I briefly showed that did use motion picture film, but they continued to use it vertically, just like it would be in a motion picture film. And what Leica, or Oscar Barnack, did was flip it sideways and use a bigger frame on that film, creating the standard for 35mm film to follow. In 1925, after many prototypes and iterations, Leitz decided to market this camera, and hence launching the Leica. Leica meaning Leitz, the first three letters of Leitz's last name, and CA for camera, so hence Leica. So today on Micro Adventures, we're going to do something a little bit different and actually go on an adventure as we review this camera. What we'll do is take this 1969 Citaria and we're going to fly up to Lake Placid. We're going to pass right by Mount Monadnock, through the Green Mountains, fly into the Adirondacks, land at Lake Placid, walk around and take some great images, hopefully some great images with this Leica. I hope that fingers crossed, everything is working as it should on it. Before we do that, let's take a look at the camera in a little bit more detail. So this Leica design, which is so well known in the industry, I mean, Leica manufactured this design all the way into the early 50s. This is the Leica IIIA, but it is very similar to the previous cameras that came out. and immediately recognizable even from the initial prototype that Oscar Barnack worked on. Subsequently, the Leica I with the interchangeable lens came out in, I believe, 1930. The Leica II came out in 1932, adding the rangefinder capability. And the Leica III came out in 33, adding the slow shutter speed capabilities. Prior to it, it only offered speeds from 1/20th to 500th of a second. And then finally, when the Leica IIIA came out, it added shutter speeds all the way up to 1/1000th of a second. So this basic design, which again was copied by many for their initial 35mm designs, features this oval layout with the wind knob over here on the right, which winds and advances the shutter. And the unique feature with the shutter speed being linked straight to the shutter. So when you activate this, you see the shutter speed dial unwind. It featured a rewind knob right here, so you would put this on rewind to be able to wind back with the small knob on the left, put it back on advance to be able to advance the film. And you would load this not by opening the back, instead the bottom plate would come off, like so, making loading a little bit tricky. What you would do is take out the take-up spool, run the film leader into it, attach it, and kind of slide both of them in from the bottom, you know, running the film into the slot in the back, and reattach the bottom plate, lock it, and off you go. And before you would do that, you would make sure to set your frame counter, which is right here around the film advance knob. And subsequently, the lens featured Leica's own thread mount, which became known as LTM, the Leica thread mount. And the lens would simply unscrew. And a lot of other manufacturers used the same standard. Canon offered many. The initial Leica Minolta camera, of course, featured the same mount, and many other manufacturers leverage this mount, and hence you can interchange lenses on it. This particular lens, the Summar f2 50mm or 5cm as it's labeled, came with the camera from 1938 and offers a unique collapsible mechanism that allows the lens to collapse back in, making it really, indeed, a really pocketable camera. And it's still known to be a very sharp lens. Looking forward to seeing the images from it.
Okay, we're approaching Placid NY here. Great place to go hiking. With the Millingtons in the background. Great view of Lake Champlain. So up over there is Dick's Mountain, and then behind it will be Mount Marcy. As you can see, Giant is right here next to us. We're below the peak. Same for Dick's on this side. It's a great view of the backside of Giant, which is clear, and Marcy back there is obscured. And finally, Whiteface is up ahead. Bobsled tracks right here.
Lake Placid traffic, Satavia turning final 32 Lake Placid.
Final, you just follow the slope down.
So here we are in Lake Placid shooting with the Leica. It's a great place to come and shoot, especially now in last week, end of September. Beautiful leaves. Hope you enjoyed the flight coming in. And Lake Placid has multiple neighborhoods. We just walked through
the Hillcrest neighborhood, and down there is Main Street. I love this old church with the alpine design up here. We'll take a couple shots of that. As you can see, it's actually not Lake Placid down there. Lake Placid is a much bigger lake that's just at the, it is in town, but it's not readily visible from Main Street. This is Mirror Lake, and Mirror Lake is the one that it's great to swim in. Lake Placid is a lot larger lake that's great to go boating on. Let's go take some pictures and see how the Leica does on a beautiful day. Okay, and here is Main Street with a lot of great shops and restaurants. Lake Placid is a pretty unique town on the East Coast. Mountains are always ever present. Great place to go swimming in the summer. Nice and quiet in the fall. So Lake Placid is an Olympic village. One of only 2 cities that hosted the Winter Olympics twice. That's the Olympic Arena. Departing Lake Placid, it's time for some reflections. Oscar Barnack designed the Leica as a portable camera for adventure. It's finely crafted, beautifully finished, yet rugged, and takes excellent pictures combined with the optics from Leitz. It's the perfect camera to bring with you into Lake Placid and into the Adirondacks. And speaking of which, overflying the Adirondacks gives you an understanding and appreciation of its sheer size, beauty, and ruggedness. The Adirondack Park is about the size of the state of Vermont. It's 6 million acres of protected land that is unique in the entire United States. And Lake Placid is the queen of the Adirondacks, having hosted the Olympics twice. I can't help but wonder if Leica was used in the 1932 Winter Olympics at Lake Placid. Leica released the Leica I in 1930 and the Leica II in 1932. So as a brand new camera, I could just imagine that at least some of the images were taken with a Leica at the Olympics. Many people collect Leicas for a variety of reasons, one being their value and their rarity. But I can see why you would collect and use Leica cameras because they're just excellent cameras themselves. And taking a look at the images I've captured from it, you get an appreciation for the quality of those Leitz lenses, even back from the 1930s. Of course, they were uncoded at the time. I adjusted some of the images just slightly by dehazing them a little bit, especially since this lens had a little bit of fogginess in it. But otherwise, it is very sharp, especially in the center, and it has a beautiful rendering. Take a look at this fire hydrant that I shot on the way towards the airport at the beginning of the trip, and the beautiful background blur that you get with this lens, especially compared to a contemporary digital image that I've took with my mirrorless Panasonic camera. This is why I love shooting with vintage cameras and film. I hope you enjoyed this adventure. Please subscribe as we move forward. I'm working on the 1960s cameras overview, and we'll be moving into the 1960s shortly. Thanks, and bye.